Hi, I'm Carl Sane, the secondary math specialist for Cabarrus County Schools. I do want to mention that I'm also your district contact for questions about ALEKS, so send those questions my way. The goal of this presentation is to give you an overview of some of the changes that you'll notice in the Math 1, 2, and 3 curriculum documents. We focused on those grade levels primarily because of the new Math 3 EOC that will be implemented this year and to create some consistency in the resources provided for Math 1, 2, and 3. In June, the curriculum review team met to discuss changes to curriculum maps for most subjects in Cabarrus County Schools. The primary concern brought up in high school math feedback and in PLC meetings about pacing concern the lack of alignment with state documents. Other concerns include the lack of available resources for assessment in Math 1, 2, and 3, and then general instructional resources for Math 3, since it will have an EOC this year. Because of that feedback, these are the three main points of emphasis for changes to the curriculum documents. Regarding pacing, last year's curriculum documents were created almost 2 months before the state released a recommended pacing. After releasing that pacing guide, NCDPI released two resources: the Math Resources for Instruction document that gave clarification of standards, and a Canvas course for teachers of Math 1, 2, and 3 with additional tasks and resources. This meant that Cabarrus County Schools teachers had to go to 3 different sources of information to go to for planning, and then they were not necessarily aligned with each other. Because of that, the C&I department made the decision to follow the state pacing for all math subjects from kindergarten through Math 3 to better align with the resources that the state provides. And our new curriculum documents now compile the best components of all 3 of those resources into one document. Now let's get to some of the changes referenced above. Remember that in order to access these documents, there are 2 options. One is to navigate to the Cabarrus County Schools website, sign in, and select Curriculum and Instruction. Then choose K-12 Curriculum from the options at the left, scroll to the bottom of the page and select High School, and then you can select the appropriate course. This takes you to the year-long map, which you should bookmark for your records. The other option is within Canvas. To enroll in that course, under Courses in Canvas and under All Courses, we're going to want to search for a course titled Cabarrus County Schools Curriculum and Instruction Resources. This is the preferred option, as there are many resources aside from just curriculum documents held within Canvas. For the purposes of this, we're going to use the Cabarrus County Schools website to access these documents, as those were most recently uploaded. The first change that you'll notice when looking at the year-long map is a list of all standards that are listed for every single unit. Note that as before, you would use the hyperlinks to jump between units to learn more about each unit, and it still lists the amount of time recommended for each unit. But now these standards are hyperlinked. If you want to learn more about a particular standard, you can click that hyperlink and it takes you to the state's Math Resources for Instruction document, and then it automatically scrolls down to that particular standard that you clicked. Here you can find more information about the prerequisite skills, what connections can be made, and even some assessment items that you can use either for warm-ups or for on your assessments. If you go back to the year-long map, another change that you'll notice in Math 1, 2, and 3 is that we emphasized and listed the prerequisite skills for each unit. If you scroll down, you can find the prerequisite skills for each unit. Oftentimes, as a high school math teacher, you may not exactly know what skills students would have seen and when, and these are listed and linked to the unpacking documents in those grade levels. So if I click NC.8.F.2, it will take me directly to that grade's unpacking document, where you can get more clarification of what students experienced, as well as more assessment items. All right, so we're going to go into one of the unit maps just to show and explore some of the specific changes that were made. So we're going to look at Math 1 Unit 3, but keep in mind that all changes that were made are going to be consistent across all units and all of the math courses. I do also want to mention a few brief points about the process used in understanding by design. So all CCS documents use the following 3 stages for lesson planning. So stage 1 examines the standards that need to be taught, and this includes the essential questions, the enduring understandings, what students should know and be able to do. Stage 2 refers to assessment evidence with performance tasks and then tests. And then Stage 3 refers to the resources used for the instructional plan. We've made some slight changes to some of those stages, and the purpose of this is to actually discuss some of those specific changes. So in Stage 1, you'll notice that the enduring understandings, the essential questions, and what students should know and be able to do are still listed. Underneath that, the big change is that we now list the standards with hyperlinks. So as before, if you want to learn more about one of these particular standards, if you click that hyperlink, it takes you to the MRI document where you can learn more about that particular standard. The big change, so that's the big change in Stage 1, is that those standards are listed. Another big change in Stage 1 is what students should know and be able to do was updated, and these were updated to include all of the information from the MRI documents. So these knows and do's come directly from the MRI documents. In Stage 2, which refers to assessment evidence, keep in mind this planning should happen before you begin teaching a unit. And so ideally, or the expectation is that you would plan the unit test before your unit even begins. So your Unit 1 test needs to be created before the first day of school. Jenny McCarthy, a math teacher at J.M. Robinson, had a great idea when working with some of her math teachers, and that was to create an item bank for assessment. We felt like this was one area that teachers really needed some additional resources, and this would help teachers in their planning. So the big change to Stage 2 is that there's now an item bank for each unit for Math 1, 2, and 3. When you click that item bank, you can also click on hyperlinks, and those hyperlinks, as before, take you to different parts of the document related to that cluster of standards. So if you want to learn more about comparing, interpreting, and explaining key features of exponential functions, if you click that hyperlink, it drops you down to assessment items pertaining to that particular skill. These items were pulled from tests that teachers across the district submitted back in May, and this item bank will likely be updated throughout the semester. There is one of these item banks for every single unit in Math 1, 2, and 3. The goal is to move these items into Mastery Connect, but for now, feel free to copy and paste from the Google document. These items are intended for assessment, but can be used for quizzes, CFAs, exit tickets, and warm-ups in addition to unit tests. That's the big change to Stage 2. And so now finally for Stage 3. So there was a slight reorganization for some of these resources. So Stage 3 generally includes district resources as well as supplemental resources. So these were either provided by the district or provided by teachers on the curriculum review team. If you continue scrolling down, now you can also find supplemental resources aligned to NCTM's effective teaching practices. These resources are highly engaging, rigorous, and designed to meet one of the teaching practices listed. To learn more about the effective teaching practices, click this link. The effective teaching practices were created by NCTM, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, in response to providing instructional guidance on lesson planning. When the Common Core was implemented, the standards for mathematical practice were adopted to detail the actions that students should be doing on a regular basis. Those can be seen on the right side of your screen. However, there was little guidance about the instructional decisions needed to ensure that students were using these practices on a regular basis. In response, NCTM created these effective teaching practices on the left side of your screen. These are based on research and are the most significant practices that a teacher can use that are specific to math instruction. In your unit, in the curriculum documents, the resources that met these practices were then aligned to some of these practices. For instance, the top row lists all the tasks that promote reasoning and problem solving. And then there are 4 different sources for those tasks. So you can find some from Illustrative Mathematics, some from the Math Shell Project, some from Desmos, and then some 3-act math tasks. That way, if a particular teacher likes using Desmos, they'll know exactly where to look for those Desmos resources and note that many of these resources are aligned by standard. That's it. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at this email address. I enjoy coming out to PLC meetings, so if you'd like more specific information on these changes or other curricular concerns, don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks for your time and thanks for all that you do for the students of Cabarrus County Schools.